I can even move the slides. Perfect. So thank you, everyone. I wish you good afternoon. Today is a very special day for me because I prioritize this over our hockey match with Sweden. So Czech Republic is now playing the World's Championship with Sweden. I play hockey myself. I've been watching every single minute of the championship, but you guys are more important to me than hockey. So let's get to it. So, of course, I want to thank our sponsors who made the event possible. I'm happy to see many familiar places here. I am happy to finally be here with all of you. This is a very special event because it is very technical and low level, which is something I like very much because my sessions are often not very leveled up with the audience. So I hope this one, this session here will be better. If you feel like I'm going into too much of a detail or you don't understand something, don't hesitate to ask me, stop me. I will be happy to explain what I'm doing. The demonstrations I will be doing today will likely not be the kind that you will recreate once you get back home, but I just want to show you the art of possible, so you know what can be done. I've been doing this session for the past year. I think this is like 5th or 6th iteration. I change it every time because I keep adding new stuff and I keep removing proprietary stuff because I have built many tools for myself and our team, and it is very difficult to make them public and open source. And I don't want you guys to rely on our internal code. So most of the stuff I'll be showing today is stripped of the proprietary stuff. It's not as nice as it could be, but it's using the official tools. So my name is Thomas. I've been working with XRM, Dataverse for the platform for the past, I don't know, six years, I think. Before that, I used to develop ASP.NET applications. Before that, I made some Android apps. So my background is a professional developer who is trying to work with the low-code stuff. And I'm trying to find ways how I can make it more familiar for a person like me. And that's what my session is about. I've got my team back in the Czech Republic, which will hopefully win the match against Sweden because we're 5-1 right now. And these are some of my projects I've been working on. So these are ranging from small apps for tens of users to big portals for thousands of users. And I've been working with Power Platform on every single one of them. So I use the tool exclusively these days. I just try to, see how far we can push it. So I've got this slide. It has already appeared on LinkedIn, so I hope you won't be posting that because Microsoft might not like that. But if you look at the landscape of tooling for professional devs, one very specific thing about Power Platform is that it is not very professional developer friendly yet, but things are changing. I made this slide more than a year ago, and I think since some personal changes at Microsoft happened, I think they're really putting some focus on that topic right now. So if you watched the Microsoft Build conference last week, you would see some big news with the Git source control integration finally. And once this is done and implemented, there's quite a decent backlog of improvements for people like us. So I hope this will get changed. So when we started with Power Platform, we created an environment. A bunch of people opened the solution editor, and we started making changes, and a lot of stuff was breaking. So it was very weird that we didn't have any tooling, which we were used to, from other platforms for the CI/CD, for the DevOps process. And these were kind of similar issues to us from our previous experience, but we just didn't have any official tools and ways how we can deal with that. So that's why I started systematically looking into how we can improve this without waiting on Microsoft. So some of the ideas might be useful for you if you work in a setup of multiple developers working on critical projects. Usually want to find a better structure and way how to do stuff. So you might know this picture from the Microsoft Docs, separating the apps based on the criticality or the need for availability of the application, and based on the class of the application, you treat it a little bit differently. So for the toys like Canvas apps over SharePoint lists, you usually don't stress about CI/CD and stuff like that. But if you develop apps for like critical paths in a business process, you want to do it like better, more in a more structured way, and be safe about deployments and like situations which often appear because multiple people are working on the project. So the higher you go in the pyramid, the more painful it is for developers. But on the other way, if you look at it from the IT professional perspective, it's quite the opposite way. Like the default environments with thousands of apps and stuff like that. That's a real pain. But if you establish like a proper environment strategy and you onboard yourself on some at least basic CI/CD, it starts getting better. So I usually summarize my pains per platform as a developer like this. I hate clicking, so that's why I'll be demonstrating as much as possible from the VS Code IDE. It's not necessary, but I like it because I feel more productive, and it can also, like, some of the stuff can inspire you, what can be automated and what you can script yourself. Also, I want to have my apps and solutions deterministic. So if I take the source control as a primary source of trust, I want to be able to spin up an environment in a couple of, hopefully, minutes. It's usually hours. And recreate the state which I have in the source control. And I want to find ways how I can speed things up, because sometimes some of our projects, they take like 12 hours to deploy. So there are some things you can do to improve that. So let's put that into context, and let's set up the rest of the presentation. So we have a Power Platform which is positioned to serve both citizens and professionals. I think this focus is slowly changing, but still, most of the stuff is built for average guys who have never built an app from the professional perspective. So there are gaps which have not been solved for a long time, and they are especially painful in a multi-developer environment. So let's have a look at what we can do to improve this. And my hypothesis is that we can integrate some of the existing tools from Microsoft primarily and make this process better. So first area of focus would be the developer environment. So I personally prefer VS Code. Most of the stuff will work with Visual Studio as well. There are certainly other editors that you can use, but if you've got your team and you want to improve their productivity, you probably want to choose some recommended tool and optimize for that. And then you want to set up most of the interactions and decisions of the developers to be done inside of that IDE, so they don't have to leave it often, so they don't have to remember how to spin up a developer environment, pre-provision with all the prerequisites to be able to start working in the morning. And this is what you can optimize using scripts, or we built a VS Code extension for that. Then you have some structural issues. So if every single project has a different structure, when you export it to source control, it's usually very problematic to share code and to build some tooling around that. So So there are tools like .NET templating engine, which you can use to scaffold some of the components that you want to deploy to Power Platform environments, and you can script many things using PackCLI, which can also help you with the speed of getting stuff done. Then when you've got stuff in the source control as the primary source of truth, you want to build the artifacts which you deploy to environments from the source control. That's what I hate about the recommendations, official guidance, that many times people rely on actual live environments as a source of truth, which is not right by my opinion. That's not, I'm not saying Microsoft is wrong. I'm not saying you should do it like I do it, but I just think it's wrong. When I put it in the source control, I want to run a pipeline and get the deterministic output in the form of solution artifacts, which I can deploy somewhere. And I want to be able to customize the build process, because there are things like version numbers, which I need to treat and take care of. I want to validate that people have not corrupted the XML files or something like that. I also want to deal with translations, and these are the things which you usually want to implement as part of the build process. So if you type .NET build, some sequence of steps needs to happen to produce the artifact, solution zip or something, which you can deploy to the target system. And then the last part or area of focus for me is the DevOps part. That's what happens after the feature is code complete and you want to ship it. You want to merge it with others, integrate it into a single development branch, and then distribute it to downstream environments so you can test it and release it. All right. So if we have a look at the last piece, the DevOps process, let's split it up into few parts. So first, you want to take all the code that you're making as a developer, and you want to be able to, export it out of the runtime, out of the platform, and place it somewhere where you can keep track of versions, and you can travel back in time if you screw up something, or you want to search through the changes, and you want to understand why some particular piece of code is in place. And on top of that, you want to have some set of tools which help you, debug the code and test it and integrate it with others. Then the next part is testing. We won't be covering that today. I have some partial successes with that. I was attending one of the previous sessions with the testing framework with the mocking of PCFs. We've been doing similar stuff with UI tests. We focused heavily on UI tests, but we won't be looking into that today. And once you validate that your new build, that your version is meeting the QA thresholds, you can then onboard it on a release and make sure that you deploy it to environment, including all of the infrastructure configuration and setup you need to make to spin up the environment. The best case is you don't have to touch anything manually. It's achievable with some small exceptions. And then once the application is live, you want to keep track of the policies that people are not crossing the policies that you outline within your environment strategy, and you want to be working with the logs to be able to troubleshoot and solve incidents. So that's the high level overview. Let's get to demos because I think that will be more interesting. So what I prepared for you today is an initiation of a repository when you want to start from when you start from scratch. So let's say I don't have anything, I'm starting on a new project, and I want to lay out my code and repository in a way that I like it. So I can keep adding projects to it, and I keep it in a single repository. This pattern is sometimes called monorepo. You know it from front-end front-end development probably. When you create a lot of front-end npm packages, you usually place them in a single repository. So that's what I will be trying to recreate here. These are the steps that we will go through. I've made some last-minute changes to it, so let's hope it will work. So this is my VS Code. I don't have anything special installed here except for the Power Platform extension. So if you go to extensions and download the official one, Power Platform Tools, that's what we need to bring the PAX CLI to my terminal here, which is the main actor in all the automation. I have also a temporary PowerShell script here where I will be showing you the commands that I'm doing. Most of this you won't have to do if you create snippets like I did here, or my team uses this in a form of custom VS Code extension. But I think you need to understand in principle what goes on in the background. So that's why we will go through that step by step today. So let's start with initiating my Git repository. Is there anyone who is not familiar what a Git repository is? I will be happy to explain it. If not, I will move on. So all of you know what Git is. Great. So let's run this command. So what I did here was that in an empty folder, or almost empty folder, I initiated a new Git repository. So what happened is that a hidden folder was created, .git, where all the changes and all the pointers to different code branches are kept. But I don't care about that. I just use the pretty nice VS Code extension, which shows me which changes I've done, and it helps me to push them to a remote repository, which is not here yet. So let's get to the next step. We want to create a gitignore file where we will tell where we will tell Git what we want to exclude from the changes that we don't want to commit and that we don't want to integrate with others. And also I'm creating a Visual Studio solution file. For those of you who have worked with .NET in the past, you probably know what the SLN file is. It is a place where you keep track of all the projects you have in your repository. And .NET knows what it needs to build when you run .NET build on the repository scope. That's one use for that. Another use is that when you install extension like Visual Studio Solution Explorer, where you want to display only projects, not the file system, that's where the information comes from for such extension. In the professional enterprise or community Visual Studio, not VS Code, this is also used for rendering the project structure. So I created this SLN file where all my projects will be tracked. I have my gitignore file where all the things that I don't want to integrate with others are outlined. I'm using the default .NET one that usually works well for me. So we will move to the next step. And we will be creating a Dataverse solution this time. So using the PAX CLI, which was installed to my computer with the Power Platform extension, I can scaffold a project in the source folder here, which contains nothing, just some placeholder files which describe my solution at this moment. So this is what I created with this command. There is nothing, just like solution name and stuff like that. And what we need to do next is that we will patch some of the problems with this. So the third step, so the fifth step actually, is that we will move to the folder. And I don't like having two nested source folders, so we will rename that. We will also remove the gitignore, which Microsoft produced with PAX-CLI, because we already have the root level gitignore, which covers that. So let's run this command. And the next problem we need to solve is that the CDS-proj file, which was generated by PAX-CLI, is not actually a valid .NET file. You cannot add it to the Visual Studio Solution file because it has a different suffix. It's not CS-proj, as other .NET projects, it's CDS-proj. And .NET doesn't understand what kind of project it is. But fortunately, you can fix this quite easily by including a project type GUID in the CDS-proj, which will let you treat it as a regular .NET project without renaming it. I could also fix this by renaming the project, but we can add a specific GUID to the CDS-proj file. And also, I want to change my solution components directory because I renamed it. I need to tell the MS build target, which builds the solution, that I want to use a different name. So here I'm replacing the folder name, and here I'm adding default project type GUID. So let's run this command. All of these are published on my GitHub, so I will share that with you after today's session, so you will be able to recreate this. And now if we look here, you can see that I have my new project type GUID here, which will make it work with the standard .NET tooling. And I have a folder name here, solution root path. This is picked up by this MS build target. So when you add this line to the CS-proj, it actually brings in some build targets. These are the steps which are executed when I build the solution using .NET. And Microsoft uses some parameters which I can override, which are then passed to the solution packager library. Solution packager library makes sure that it puts all the definitions into the format which I can take and import into Dataverse. So using this parameter, solution root path, I'm overriding the folder here. Okay, let's move on. Okay. So the next problem I need to solve is that my solution name is actually not valid. So if I tried to import this into Dataverse, this would not fly because it has a dot in the name. I unfortunately cannot change it as part of the PAX solution in it. So let's just sanitize the name. And also we will switch this property managed to number 2. If you were wondering what that is, solution type in the CS-proj has 3 states or 3 options. Unmanaged, this is default. Managed, that's number 1, and both is number 2. This is being checked by the solution packager, which then screams if it doesn't match with the build configuration. Okay, so let's run this. So now we will add the project that we created to the SLN file here on the top level. And because there is a good practice of segmenting your solutions based on component types, I will also do that because I don't want to ship my database schema with my application in a single solution. Why? Because if something goes wrong with the app, I need to uninstall it from the system. I don't want to lose the data, right? Because if I uninstall a managed solution from Dataverse, which keeps the schema of my tables, I would also delete the associated data. So the least I can do when it comes to solution segmentation is that I split the presentation layer and the database schema. So I always keep them in separate solutions. So let's run this, which will again initiate the initiate the solution like we did previously, only this time we are calling in model, like data model. And also I will repeat the steps which I was doing previously. So I will just call the snippets back here. It's the same thing, just once more. And we will add it to the solution file. So let's execute this. Now we should be good to go. So we've got two solutions, app and model. So the next step is that we will try to build our solution. So now I will call this command .NET build, which will invoke the solution packager as part of the steps which were brought to the project by NuGet package called Microsoft Power Apps MS Build Solution. And this guy makes sure that .NET knows how to build the solution. We can see that build succeeded, so we can inspect the folder, the default folder where all the artifacts after build are placed. So in the bin folder, you can see that I've actually got a solution zip. I could take this and import into Dataverse right now, but I won't be doing that because I don't want to do that interactively. Much rather, I want to do it here from the console. So we'll get to it later. So I will get back to the root path of my repository. That's also something I don't particularly like about the PaxCLI and tooling, because I need to move between folders back and forth, and every command behaves a little bit differently, but you can get used to it, especially if you create snippets like I have here. Okay, so then that would be the start. Now we created two solutions. Sure, go ahead.
Why do you prefer snippets instead of partial mode?
Well, I don't prefer snippets. I use a VS Code extension, but that's not open source yet. So I want to show you the steps. And I don't remember all the configs and parameters for the demo. So when in the past, when I was trying to do a demo like this in front of the audience, it took me a lot more time to remember the steps. So I just did it like this. So when it comes to deploying the app, I don't want to import two solutions manually. I don't want to create a pipeline which has hard-coded solutions either. So what I will do is that I will create a Dataverse package. Dataverse package can take multiple solutions and deploy them as a single unit of deployment. So I will take my model solution and app solution, and I will create them to a package, which I will create here. So package init will create the package. I will add two .NET project references to it. I will also add it to the solution file here, which keeps track of all the project I've got in the repository. And that's how I can conveniently deploy my application. It can also do other stuff like executing custom code before and post deployment or between individual solution deployments. So when you need to perform like migration steps, or you need to validate that your solution can be imported to the environment, or you want to enable flows, set a theme, or all the stuff which is hard to automate. This is my usual go-to place. Here in the C# code, I can put some custom logic before, after, and in between imports.
When you put solutions into a package, and there's dependencies between solutions, is that something that you need to put all solutions in some order or something?
Yeah, that's a good question. So looks like I've got some error here. That didn't happen. Yeah, that's because I opened the C# file. This should be fine. So the order here matters, because when you add these as references, they are added to the CSproj file. And in this particular order, the import config file will be generated. You can do it manually, or you can have the tooling generated for you. So here I have my import config file inside of the package, and that that describes which solution import order will be taken when you import the package. You can override the stage 4 upgrade. You can add configuration data and stuff like that. But if you don't want to do it manually like this, you can have the MS build target for package do it for you. So like with the solution, there is a NuGet package referenced. It's called PD package. And that makes sure that when you build this project, it will also build the import config out of the references that you have here. So I will show you how that works right after this. So I think that should be all. Yeah. So I think I can build the package here. So if I go to source packages main and call .NET publish, it's not built here. It's publish target. That's different from other project types. So when I call .NET publish here, this file will get regenerated, and I will find it in the bin folder once it goes through it. It builds all the dependencies recursively. So you can, I will be referencing a PCF project from this, and it can also be rolled up here to the Dataverse package. So here in the debug file, you can see that I have my package zip. This is what I can deploy using package deploy. And what's inside of it are the solution zips, and also the import config file, which now contains the import order for the solutions that will be imported to the environment. Okay, so let's continue with integrating this to my source control and the remote repository. So far I've done some changes here. If I switch to the Git extension, you can see that I have made some changes to my repository. There are diff checks. I was adding files, so there are no changes, just new files. So I will commit this. Either I can do it here with the message, or I will do it here with the command. So I don't have to write it down. And now I want to connect it to a server, to a remote repository. My tool of choice is Azure DevOps. Using GitHub Enterprise or GitHub is quite similar. I like Azure DevOps also because it has a very decent CLI. So I can install a CLI extension to my computer. I can log into my Azure DevOps instance, and I can use commands for working with repositories, pipelines, and many aspects of configuration with Azure DevOps. So instead of going to browser and creating a new project, I'm creating Azure DevOps project here with a Git source control repository, and I'm setting it to my CLI default, so I don't have to write it all over again in all of the subsequent commands. So I think this will take a little bit of time. My extension is already installed. I will authenticate with my work account. And now a project should get created. Are there any questions so far before the command is complete? Am I too fast or too deep? Does it make sense? I need feedback, guys. Yeah.
Do you remember your
name? Yeah, so we have we've got a new project now in DevOps. So we want to link our local Git repository with the remote one that we just created. This is how it gets done when I don't want to clone it first. I've already got my code here on my local machine, so I just want to connect it to the new remote repository. Okay, and we pushed it to the remote, so the code is now in Azure DevOps. We can also open the project right from the terminal. So if I call this command, it will jump into the web browser where I can have a look at what I just created. So this is the Azure DevOps project, and if I head over to DevOps, you can see that my code is already here, and it only contains the things that are not in Git ignore. I had this problem with when I was trying it before the session. It actually misses my solution app. I don't know why that is. So I will just force it like this. I don't have time to troubleshoot it. So it will also contain some additional garbage. So don't ever do this, okay? Oh. Oh, okay, I'm not in the, sorry, I need to go 2 folders above. Sorry for this. Demo Dragons. I was in the packages. No, I want to be in the folder. So I'll just commit this and hope that it will end up here. Sync. Okay, we've got our app here, but we also have the bin folder and intermediate folder that's not supposed to be here. You only should store you should only store the source files here, not the binary files. Ideally, you don't want to duplicate the stuff in the source control. So always make sure you only commit what's necessary, because if I delete it now, it's still kept in the history unless I force push some older commit to get rid of that. So just deleting it here doesn't make it disappear. Yeah, it's all kept in the Git history, and it's always downloaded to your computer when you clone the repo. All right, so it was created successfully. So let's continue with the next step, and that's creating a developer environment. So this is the Puck CLI command that I can use to spin up a new environment. You can see that the type here is developer. So unless it's blocked in my tenant, which is not, I can create up to 3 developer environments with full Dataverse database for free. So anyone can do that. So I will just execute this. It used to take a lot of time. Now it should be like 10 to 20 seconds, which is quite impressive. And that will give me a fresh, clean environment where I will make my changes, which I'm not able to do from within the IDE yet. Yeah, the next one. Usually when the command is running, the snippets are not working. So I guess I will need to wait.
What privileges do you need to run that command to create the environment?
You need to have a Power Platform license entitlement. Even the developer SKU is fine. So if you claim the free SKU for developer environments, you can do it. But the Power Platform admin can explicitly block it in the Power Platform admin center, or someone can block it by disabling viral licenses in the tenant, which is something I see very often in the large enterprise tenants, that people just disable the trials and stuff like that, which makes it impossible to do it from a person perspective. So usually want to have the admin to create that environment for you. Okay. But they can also do it on behalf of you. So yeah, that works fine. So next, I need to authenticate against the environment, and I need to tell the CLI which environments I will be working with. So many times I did this mistake of making changes against the wrong environment. So that kind of taught me a lesson. So I always put Puck auth clear at the at the beginning before I start doing anything, which just wipes all the authentication profiles, and I'm authenticating against the newly created dev environment. Okay, so it will jump to the browser for interactive authentication, and we can continue. So now I could add someone else to the environment like this. We don't need to do that today, but if you need it to collaborate on something with someone on a single environment, which I don't recommend, usually you should isolate your developers to their separate dedicated environments, but this is how you can do it easily. I will skip that. And we will now import the solutions that I created here to my environment. So first, I will build the whole repository, because now I'm located in the root folder. I can just call .NET build, and it builds everything because we keep track of it here in the SLN file. And then I will jump to individual folders to import the individual solutions. I don't do it through the package here because this is for development purposes. I want to get them to the environment as unmanaged, so I can make changes and sync them back to my repository. So this is done by hand intentionally. So build now succeeded. It connected to my environment, and now it does the solution import. This is the worst part about that, because this takes the most time.
Does it actually create the entities from the solutions model folder?
There are no entities yet, but yes, you can do that. For example, I mentioned the .NET template engine. So what we do usually is that we create the entity definitions here, and we just push them to the environment. We also made some integrations like loading the definitions from Excel spreadsheets when consultants create, thousands of attributes. You just want to do it you just don't want to do it by hand. So we built a tooling around that. One interesting new feature of the introduced Git integration is that Microsoft will be trying to get rid of the need to import and export stuff. So I will just make I will just divert from the demo for a little bit to show you, because it's now public, so we can talk about that. If you don't want to do it, manually, the import export, you will be able to just connect your environment to a Git repository directly, or create a single folder where you will push changes. And when you make adjustments to your solution, like when you create, I don't know, a table here, the Power Apps Maker will keep track of the changes, and it will be able to push them to your Git repository. It has many limitations. It will take some time before we can fully use that, but that's the future. So yeah, if I do that.
That's in preview.
That's very, very, very much in private preview right now, but it was demonstrated last week on build, so I think it's fine to show it here. So yeah, it's async, so you could see that I created some stuff. I need to wait a little bit, but I will see the changes that I made on the environment, the many changes here, and I will be able to commit them to my repository, which is linked to the environment. So that's the future. That's not available yet, but you at least know where this is heading. Yeah. So I could also wait here for minutes, but we don't have time. So I'll just get back. I will just get back to the demo. So we imported our solutions to the environment. So now I want to open the particular environment. I don't want to make a mistake by looking at a different environment. So I can do Pack Tool Maker, which will bring me to browser on the specific environment in the Power Apps Maker. So here you can see Shift Planner demo environment. And if I go to solutions, I can see my two solutions which I created locally here. that's cool. That's it. So we will continue with the next part. So next we will create a new table and we will create a Canvas app, which we will need to bring over back to my local computer. So we will go to the model solution where tables are supposed to be. So I will create a table here. I want to have it called shift event. And it needs to be of type activity. So we have start and end dates. Next, we will create a Canvas app, which is called Shift Planner. You see, now I'm interacting with the web browser and just takes infinite amount of time. I hate that. So yeah.
So I feel like I followed it. Okay. But it's basically just with Power BI, we've got a Power BI PBIP file. You just basically created that.
Yeah.
What is a Power App? Like the model and then the report files that creates.
I'm not sure I follow the question.
So, like with Power BI, to make a PBIP file, like a project, it will create a folder and file, which I would usually save to Git and it go to the workspace.
Yeah.
Basically, this like with the solutions, just kind of done that, but obviously you don't have desktop to sort of be able to build all of that.
I'm doing that locally, and I can import that to Dataverse and export that back to simple changes.
Basically, previously you had the platform solutions, and then Power BI took some of logic in there to do the package. And the feature, the integration between Dynamics and solution on their reports is still in preview.
Yeah, that's my usual experience. Yeah, so it's finally here. Great. So we will switch over to the app solution because we don't want to have that in the single solution because these are things which may fail and I might want to uninstall the app from the environment. We'll also create, a Canvas app. And data table, columns, and button. Okay. Show me this. Insert data table. We should see the table here. Now it gets duplicated in the MSApp file, and I just want to display my start and end dates. Good. Let's add a button so we can create some data. And just like that, I am creating some shifts within the current week. Now we will save the app, publish it, of course, because otherwise we wouldn't get the current version exported.
Questions?
Yeah.
Okay. And the next step will be bringing it back to my local computer. So now it's published, great. And I want to take the changes, export them from Dataverse, unpack them so they're in a more structured form, and place them on their original spots where they're supposed to be. So I'm syncing the solutions and I'm putting them here.
You are using the process Canvas flag, which is
So the flag, yeah, you should not be using that. Well, I wanted to show model-driven apps because that's what I work with 99.99% of time, but people always complain I'm not inclusive with Canvas app. So I made this demo including Canvas apps. This process Canvas apps flag will likely disappear and will be replaced with a better, newer version of YAML files, which will be exported natively directly from the platform without unpacking the MS app file. And that was also this week, or this week was the build, so they introduced it this week. Yeah, so for the time being, you need to use this to be able to unpack the content of the Canvas app into some crazy number of weird files. This will be cleaned up and it will be better as once they ship the new version of the format.
I'm going to say the process is more actually the import afterwards, because you have to zip it up in a particular way.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, trust me.
So there is a bug in the Pug CLI that they pack it in the wrong order. So I'm monkey patching the build process so I can pack it back and import it to the environment.
Yeah, but it's the way that it comes up exists.
Yeah.
Is near but not quite as it format.
Yeah.
So therefore you have to pack it up that way, and that's why I did it.
Yeah, so they will get rid of that.
Yeah.
That will no longer exist, hopefully, soon. So you see that I have got a bunch of changes here. These were actually exported from the environment. So I've got some forms and views and attributes of my new table that I created, and they were placed into respective places. So my Canvas app here is unpacked, again, 2 nested source folders, but I can see my screen here, including the button code. If I modified it here and then used Canvas pack or pack solution back process Canvas apps, it would not make it back to the MS app file. Yeah, but there is a way how you can patch it, but likely you won't have to do that in a couple of months.
Excuse me. Also, if you go back to the command,
Yeah.
executed, please. So how does it know this solution to pick up and then no?
Yep. So this, when you execute this, it tries to find solution zip or the CDS approach file. So since I have got this here, they know where the definitions are stored, and the Pug CLI then takes them and looks for the particular solution with the same name on the environment, runs the solution packager to unpack it, and maps it to the folder. That's useful.
So when you created the default CRM environment, what about the out-of-the-box entities? Because now
you don't want to keep them in source control. You only want to keep changes in the source control. We can get to your question after we finish here. It's just 7 minutes left, and I've got so much more stuff here. So if you've got questions, I will finish the demo, or at least the bit that I can, and I will be happy to answer your questions after the session. So now we've got our things exported. Next thing which might be interesting is that you can actually move even configuration with the package. So I will not be able to make it on time to show you, but you can basically export the records that we created. You can place them in your repository, and then you can have the package deployer pick up the data file, the XML data file, and create the records or upsert the records post-deployment. So that's a usual pain with Power Platform pipelines, that you cannot move your configuration that you depend on in your flows or apps or PCFs or whatever. You cannot easily move them between environments. So this solves that problem, because the package import config has this interesting property where you can say, import this zip file after you're done with solutions, and it contains all the configuration records that you can store in your repository as well. So these are the non-solution aware things that you create. Okay, so we will skip that. We again want to clean up our changes and commit the stuff. So next we will create some pipelines. So we want to be able to build the solutions in Azure DevOps when multiple developers integrate their changes from their branches, and we want to be able to deploy them to target environments. So here I will create a folder for pipeline definitions. So now you can see that I have a placeholder file for build and deploy pipelines. And I have a snippet for how the pipelines should look like. Build pipeline. This is basically that's a description of steps which a virtual machine, which a build agent will perform to create the solution zips or Dataverse package zip, which can then be imported to testing environments, SIT environments, UAT production environments. This is the most minimalistic pipeline that you can have. So you basically take the package and you run .NET Publish on it, and then you copy the files to be, published as output artifacts from the pipeline. So the easiest pipeline you can make for build. And we will also have a look at the pipeline for deployment, which then picks up the package zip, which was produced by the previous pipeline, installs the PAX-CLI and tooling which is needed to be able to communicate from the build agent with Power Platform, and it uses Power Platform deploy package step, which deploys the thing to the target environment. So CFE4. Now we want to create another environment where we can deploy the managed versions of the solutions that we created. So I'm spinning up another one that will be target for the pipeline. And that's ready now. We are also switching our PAX-CLI to point to the new test environment. So it should prompt me for my account. I've got a mistake here. Okay, cool. Sorry for that. Just need to do this one. So next I need to authenticate Azure DevOps against my new environment. So that's what I can do with this command pacadmin create service principal that also needs elevated permissions because it creates Azure Entra ID, Azure Active Directory ID app registration, and then it creates an app user in the target environment and gives them a system administrator role. So I can then use this as a service endpoint connection within Azure DevOps. So once this is done and the user is created, I will be able to run the pipeline, authenticate and run the pipeline. So we've got 1 minute left. We will need to end. So I'm sorry we didn't get further, but this is where I would be able to set up my connection and configure the pipelines. So yeah, here I can run the pipeline. At least this I will do, and we will open it to have a look at the result. Oops. And I messed up something here. So for the next time, we will continue with creating a PCF project, adding it to a solution, which is then added to the package. And we will also go through how you can further automate the deployment part. So thank you very much. If there are any questions or you want to have a look at that, I will stay here for a couple of hours once I find out the score. And the match just finished. We won 7-3. Great.